In a world where people disagree, two guys, one liberal, one conservative, two guys who disagree about stuff.
Trevor, how you doing, man?
Not bad, Michael. How are you?
I am doing pretty well. We had a big ice storm down here in Dallas I guess last night. So we had a big 100-plus car pileup. Bunch of people died, bunch more people hospitalized.
That's terrible.
So I've been working from home today.
Okay, yeah.
And on that note, no, I think it fits. I'm having trouble coming up with a metaphor to tie that into the impeachment proceedings that are going on right now for former President Trump.
Right. Maybe we don't need one. We're talking about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So no snazzy or smooth segue like we had last week. So
It's a political ice storm causing a pileup in the hearts and minds of the American people. Done.
I love it. Okay, that's that's why
I was strained.
that's why I need you.
That hurt.
Yeah. So what what are your overall feelings on the impeachment proceedings as they
I mean, to be my honest personal feelings are, I'm so sick of talking about Trump that I have a hard time watching the proceedings, and I meant to watch more of them as part of preparation for this episode, but I got so busy that I've only seen highlights, to be honest. But in general, it's interesting. It seems like it's not going to happen. I think 55 senators, or what do we say? 45 senators voted that it was unconstitutional to have a trial. Is that right? So it doesn't look good.
Yeah. They need 17 Republicans, assuming that every single Democrat votes in favor of impeachment.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely an uphill battle.
I heard on, I think it was on Bill Maher the other day, where Maher was saying that politically he didn't like the impeachment, for the Democrats, because he's like, can we move on? Can we get on with the agenda? Why, maybe not that he doesn't agree with the charges or whatever, but just like, it doesn't look good. It doesn't help us politically, something like that. And I think that's a little bit how I feel. I obviously do not like Trump. I think that his comments and actions after the election were irresponsible. But I mean, it's not going to do anything. They're not going to impeach him. It's symbolic. Maybe it's important in some way, to not set a precedent or something. But politically, I don't like it. I don't think it helps the Democrats. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe that's too cynical.
No, I agree with you on a few points. Absolutely. So number one, I obviously just want to put this whole thing behind us. It's like the election's over, President Biden's in. There was no formal coup. We did not have a true disputed election in the sense that, we didn't go past Inauguration Day. So we've kind of tried to put it all behind us as a society, and yet here we are, still talking about Trump. Not that he needs any more attention after 4.5 years of 24/7 coverage.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about this a little bit in the preliminaries, but I think in a way the Democrats need Trump, or they've come to rely on Trump as sort of an antithesis, something to define yourself against. You kind of need your opposite, and part of me wonders if they're not how they're going to find their identity in the post-Trump world.
Mm-hmm.
How they can avoid falling into, I don't know, being not standing for anything. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you may disagree with this point, but I think secretly they not only do they know that this isn't going to go anywhere or materialize into anything, but they're kind of glad that it's not going to. And my reasoning for that, or my running theory as of right now, is the Democrats just beat an incumbent president who, prior to COVID, had overseen a fairly strong economy, strong jobs gains, all of that. And you beat him with somebody only a few degrees removed from a walking corpse who is barely able to string two sentences together that are anywhere close to coherent. So I don't think... I'll try to use this carefully, or try to say this carefully. I'm sorry, it's probably not going to come across the way that I want it to. But I feel like they don't view Trump as a true threat in elections anymore. Because if you're able to beat one of the more dynamic and cultish kind of leaders that the Republican Party has had in a while, with nobody's first choice and Joe Biden, I think you feel pretty good about where you stand against him. That's just me, though.
Sure.
But then, like you
maybe.
said, you can use him as the boogeyman or the antithesis of what you are, and you can say, we're not that guy, as long as he's around.
Yeah.
And if he's the kind of guy that's going to stick around for a long time, and if he's going to try to run again in 2024 or 2028, or get involved in politics more in some way in the future, you're able to use him as your piñata,
Right. But I don't know if the Democrats are unified in what they think will come from the impeachment process. I'm not sure. I mean, I think that it's not a unified body. People have their own opinions. People have their own viewpoints on it. I think probably most of them feel like they're doing it because they feel like he did it. That he deserves it, that he basically did an impeachable offense. Politically, I might be alone in this, but I think it's bad politically. I don't see it as being a helpful thing. When I heard about the impeachment process of starting after the Capitol riots, I just got the feeling, I was like, oh no. I don't know if a lot of other Democrats feel this way. Maybe not. I might get flack for that, but I just kind of thought cynically, I'm just like, it just plays into the Republicans' hands, in my view. And maybe that there's something positive that can come from it. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Do I think that he bears responsibility in a large degree for the Capitol riots? Yeah, I do. I think he does. Maybe do I think we can prove in a court of law that he ordered those people down there to do that specifically? I don't know. Do I think we can convict him for impeachment? Absolutely not, because it's a political thing. Mm-hmm. 45 Republicans said that they didn't want to have a trial. So I don't know how it helps us or hurts us politically. I mean, that remains to be seen. I'm a little bit frustrated that the focus is going to remain on Trump, even if just for another however long this lasts, because I think that one of Trump's superpowers was the ability to make everything about him. Even if you hate him, you end up just talking about him all the time. Yep. And he becomes the, flaming orange sun at the center of your solar system.
Case in point right here, right?
There you go. We're talking about him. So sick of talking about Trump.
Yeah.
You were saying something interesting about, I think it was AOC. Do you think there's a tendency to fetishize the opponent? And
yeah. I mean, listen, like you said, politics has become more a game of what you're not as opposed to what you are.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's something good that comes from it, but to me it just seems so counterintuitive. On the right, we do this to AOC. We say, oh, she's the spawn of Satan, she's awful, she doesn't know what she's talking about, all these things. And In talking about her, every political figure, where does their power come from? It comes from the influence and attention that they are given, right? And so
Sure.
the more you talk about them, the more power you're giving them. You're fueling their fire. Because
Right.
then what happens
Yeah.
is you say these bad things, and then people on the other side say, oh, look at all these bad things that they're saying about this person. We need to rally behind them. And then it just
Yeah.
generates a bunch of support. So on the right, I get so tired of people talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I can't even say her name without my tongue getting twisted up. I'm sorry, Representative
That's why
Ocasio-Cortez.
it's abbreviated.
Yeah, AOC. I'll just use that one. I won't embarrass myself again. But I get so frustrated when people talk about her because it's like, look, if you don't want her in power, if you want her gone, if you don't want her policies to spread like wildfire, stop giving them airtime.
Sure. Well, and that was a mistake I think that the media made in the run up to 2016. Is I think that they were publishing a lot of these things about Trump. I mean, partially for ratings because it's entertaining. This guy said some outrageous stuff, and then partially I think just because they wanna denounce this guy. They don't like him. So but in a weird way it backfired because they give him all this attention and they think that people are going to be on their side. Look at these terrible things this guy said. But it turns out some people didn't feel that way, and maybe it just basically got his message out to a broader audience. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought us there because that actually feeds into a theory that I have about this and about why the impeachment 2.0 is even taking place. And that is this. Trump is obviously somebody who moves the needle when it comes to ratings and eyeballs, right? So when he first declared that he was running for the presidency, he grabbed a lot of attention. The media companies started covering him, and I mean, a lot of it was dismissive and saying, "Oh, this is just a publicity stunt. This isn't going to go anywhere." But then, as he started to gain some momentum in his campaigning, and as he started showing up in the polls, number one, people on the right were saying, "Oh no, we're not going to let this reality TV star hijack our party." And then you have people on the left who are saying, well, we'd love to see him hijack that party, but if he turns it into some crazy circus that gains any sort of popularity, we don't want to deal with it. So people from both sides started attacking the guy, which kind of fed into this underdog outsider kind of a image that he was trying to build. And then because of all of the negative coverage that he was getting from everyone, people who even maybe they didn't care for him, maybe they just didn't want him involved, they started to hate him. They started to loathe him. They started to fear what a world would look like if he was making government decisions.
Sure.
But because of all the free press, he eventually gets elected. And I think that has more to do with who Hillary Clinton was as a candidate than Donald Trump. But
Yeah.
he gets elected, and then what are we left with? We're left with a bunch of people who have been emotionally scarred and conditioned to feel like this is the worst possible outcome. We live in the darkest timeline, right?
Yeah.
But then you're also left with all of
Thoughts exactly.
But then you're left with this group of media companies who were predicting his downfall and were trying to demonize him, who now have to face the music of, oh, we actually probably played a role in getting him elected.
Sure.
Let's now
Absolutely.
try to play an active role in making sure that he never sees office again. And so you, in a previous conversation, we're talking about this this dynamic as to what contributes to us, accepting a narrative or assigning meaning to the fact base, just based on candidates' likability and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think that that's true. Where there's room for interpretation, it seems like we we fill in the blanks with what we want, you know. So when there's room to interpret a guy like Trump, if you hate him, you're going to interpret it in the worst possible light. If you like him, maybe you'll give him the benefit of the doubt. That's true everywhere, and especially in a time, I think, where facts themselves become muddied, where things are very contentious, where people are, you know, lying and accusing others of lying and things like that. It comes to be that our compass is essentially our emotional attachment to this or that. You know, who are you going to believe? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to this the Revolutions podcast, Mike Duncan's podcast, and specifically about the Russian Revolution. He was talking about Mikhail Bakunin, the founder of anarchist thought, and he had this quote I thought was super interesting, and I'll probably butcher and mischaracterize it, but it was that this guy said, you know, the rural farmers. People think they're reactionary because, you know, they love the emperor, they love the authoritarian figure. But the only reason they love the authoritarian figure, the strongman, is because he sticks it to the rest of the rich. You know, and it's a strange inversion of a concept, and for some reason it made me think a bit of Trump. And I was thinking, there's this weird way in which, you know, yeah, he's a conservative in a way, but then I feel like he had this aura of, you know, I don't know if you can call it revolution. It's certainly not left wing, but I don't know.
Well, I think
Rebellion, sure.
I think he became a little bit of a cult leader in a way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was I think you see this with a lot of populist leaders, you know, to where people like authoritarian figures who talk badly about their peers,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and who have the power and the wherewithal and, you know, whatever else they need in order to actually, you know, knock a few people down a peg. I think that's
right. Knock them down. Yeah.
I think that's why working class people turned out for Donald Trump in both 2016 and 2020.
That's what it made me think. I had that thought just the other day, because it's always been a little strange for me, you know, trying to understand how this guy that, you know, gold plates everything somehow was the champion of, you know, the rural white working class. It's always been incongruous to me, but in a way, it does make sense as a sort of, you know, brick through the window kind of thing. It's like, you know, he just basically insults all these establishment figures. He's flipping them off. And so there's something a guy said to me in 2015 or 16 during the election. You know, he knew that I was a Bernie supporter. You know, at this time Bernie was out. And he asked me, he's like, so, you know, you supporting Trump now? I was like, no, man. He's like, you know, I can't believe that you wouldn't support Trump if you were for Bernie. You know, don't you want to, you know, stick it to the man or something? I did not understand at all what he was talking about, but I feel like just the other day, I think I finally got it. It was like, I got his logic. It's like, no, I'm voting for Trump because, you know, I'm sick of these people. I'm sick of the rich, the privileged, the establishment, the people in power. I'm tired of them. And, you know, maybe we could have Bernie, maybe we could have Trump, but somebody has got to put these people in their place somehow.
Yeah, we got to shake up the status quo somehow.
Shake it up in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock it to the right or to the left. I don't care. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. All right, Trevor. So how do we rid ourselves of Trump?
I don't know. It seems like before this impeachment, there was a nice time when I would open the news. It was boring, and I liked that. And there was no Trump. For 4 years, I opened the news. Every headline somehow captures. You've got to bring Trump into it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like for a second he was fading into the background again, and then suddenly back in my news feed, back in the foreground, and that's what irritates me, I suppose, about the trial from a cynical, selfish perspective. I have a question for you. I don't know how he could be made to, go away. I don't know. I'd like to see us move on to something else, anything else. My question is two questions. One, do you think that the Republican Party ultimately will move away from Trump or towards new Trump, replace Trump? Maybe it's too big of a question, but and then question two would be, what do you think they should do? What do you think they will do? What do you think they should do?
Okay. I can tell you just from experience that what they will do and what they should do are two different answers. I feel like that tends to be the case with everyone. With the Democratic Party after 2016, instead of looking inward and saying, what can we change to better ourselves? It became,
Sure.
Russia collusion and Orange Man bad, at least from my perspective. I think that...
Yeah, things were focused on Trump for sure.
Yeah, I think that the right's going to fall into a similar trap. Instead of looking inward and seeing what they can change or what they should change, they'll do the opposite. So I think that's what they will do. Now, what they should do, here's some things that I liked about Donald Trump's governance. Right? So you remove the tweets, you remove the guy, you remove the brand, all of it. What are the things that he did that I liked? Number one, he didn't start any new wars, right? We usually look at the Republican Party as being the warmonger kind of party. They're pro-military. They want big military budget. They're the ones that are probably going to end up starting new conflicts or increasing the conflicts. Now, the caveat to that is, even though Trump didn't start any new wars, he also didn't end many, and he didn't scale down to nearly the degree that people thought he would, the number of soldiers and the number of bombings in certain conflicts, right? But I like that. I think that that's something that they should start to move towards. Is let's, instead of, listen, I'm not an isolationist, right? I'm definitely not an isolationist, but I am in the sense that I'd really like to see us transition from being the world's police force to worrying about other things. Let's not get in any more military conflicts. So I'd like to see that. Also, he helped broker 3 independent peace deals in the Middle East. Right? A lot of people have been saying for decades, peace in the Middle East without a Palestinian state or a 2-state solution is impossible. No one's going to do any of that. Well, three governing entities did agree to that. And I don't know exactly how that happened. I don't know if those were things that were in the works with the Obama administration, and then Trump over 3.5 years kind of carried them to the finish line. I don't know all of the details, but I do like that. I like the idea of America first, in that I don't think that we should serve the interests of these multinational corporations. I don't think that we should give them favorable tax treatment for outsourcing labor. Like, if you want to outsource labor because it's cheaper, that's fine, but you don't get tax benefits for doing it too, right? Or something. And I'm not nuanced in my understanding of how all of that works, but I like this idea of, let's put a focus on reintroducing blue-collar work into the United States. I like that. And I mean, I can go and do it a little bit more, but where do we need to change? Or where would I like to see the Republican Party pivot away from Trump? Mostly in terms of rhetoric, right?
Okay.
Most of my qualms with the Republican leadership before, after, during Trump is always going to be, if you're going to complain about the games that the left plays, if you're going to say, oh, look at how they demonize us, look at how they take everything out of conflict, they play dirty, or context, not conflict, what in the world? They play dirty. You don't get to resort to the same tactics. It's hypocritical, right? Don't try to... We talked about this a little bit before. Explain a film plot badly.
Sure.
Right? If you're doing it for humor, it's hilarious.
Go in bad faith.
Right? If we're saying something that's technically correct but completely misses the mark, it's entertaining. But if you're doing it with the intention of deceiving or twisting or creating some sort of a narrative, it's gross.
Right. You know, that's something I think the whole point of this podcast, as we've been talking about it, is just that. You know, if anything, if we can't agree on anything else, maybe we can de-escalate a bit. I think it is what both of us would like to see. And again, like we've said, not because the issues don't matter, not because there aren't real differences, but just because we're not going to be able to have a functioning democracy like this. I feel like carrying this logic forward brings you into a place where you can't have a democracy. You can't, because democracy requires a sort of good faith, you know, or just benefit of the doubt. These things, I think we need them, you know, not only in, you know, a marriage or something, but also in a democracy. I think we need that. If we don't trust each other fundamentally, we can't have a country, not a functional one.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's been real. Hopefully this is the last time we discuss the big T.
Hey man, I'm the big T. What is this?
Oh no!
Usurping my time. I'm just kidding.
How insensitive of me! I apologize. I'll get canceled from my own podcast.
Perfect. Definitely got to start a hashtag around this.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Good talk. And I'll see you next time.
All right. Sounds good.